my main topic for today is the inability of people to start with the end in mind. And in real estate, that is such a transformative strategy. And a lot of people don't think like that. And so I spend a lot of time in my job and profession laying that map out for people. And when we do, the transactions go so much better. So another example of this that I give to people all the time is they will say to me, well, Lance, we're decluttering the house. And we're getting, because we've heard that on your radio show, we've heard people talk to it, and we're going to take all of the stuff and we're going to put it in the garage. That's got to be okay, right, Lance? I mean, and that's like the number one question I get. And I'm like, well, that's okay if you want buyers to think you don't have a garage. Yeah. And people are always like, they're blown away. And they're always like, you got to be kidding me. No, you can see how much space is in there and you can see the stuff. And I'm always like, well, 80% of the general public cannot see that. Or if somebody does that, they open the garage door, they look out there and they immediately say, man, junk. That person has a lot of stuff. Like they're like, and that's all they say. They don't even really look at the actual garage. And so like people think I'm really like OCD about this stuff and over the top. But I tell people, if you have a 3-car garage, any car number garage, like unless it is like a show-stopping garage with a classic car in it or something, I said, I don't want any of your vehicles in the garage. And they're always like, Lance, that's ridiculous.
You want it to look as big as possible.
Yeah, I'm always like, okay, if there's a showing and you're both in a 2-car garage and I know you're going to leave and go to dinner for the showing or go run an errand, I want you to leave in one car and I want you to take the other car and park it across the street.
Yes.
And they're always like, God, man, you're so just over the top about this. But I always tell them, I'm like, you want people to look in there and be like, oh my gosh, look, a 2-car garage we can both park in. Or look how much storage is out there. I think even our boat will fit in there. That is how people have a discussion about that. The worst is like, too, when I see, I mean, I've seen like a dually quad cab truck like parked in a garage where it's like 1 centimeter from the front, and in fact usually the like drywall's damaged because they hit it one day, and then the garage like barely comes down over the trailer hitch, so you can't even walk around it to see the other side of the garage. It's a really big garage actually.
Yes,
but you got to get that thing out of there.
Yeah.
The other thing that I put down with that people fight me with all the time in this same realm of starting with the end in mind is I was like, if you have RV parking, I'll show up to listings and there's a huge RV beside the house. And I mean, I've seen some crazy things that they do, like poured just like cement runners to like make the RV level, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I've seen the eave of the corner of the house like cut off with a chop saw, like so that the RV can make it around the corner.
Wow.
And people are always like, oh man, well that shows them that we have like a lot of RV parking and we need to, I'm like, absolutely not. Like you need to get that thing the heck out of Dodge. I know it sucks to go pay $200 a month to have it stored down at the storage lot, but you got to do it because number one, the buyers, they might not even have an RV. They might have a boat that they want to put out there, or they might have a box truck they want to park out there. By the way, check your CC&Rs before to know if you can even do that. That's a whole nother show. But if you get that out of there and there's a lot of space, buyers walk up and they say, oh my gosh, look, there's room for my boat. I love this house. It's going to be perfect. If a big RV's parked up there, they walk up there and like, oh man, it looks a little tight around here.
Yeah.
And so every single time. So I just say, start with the end in mind for that type of stuff. Another example of starting with the end in mind is when you go to resell a house, do you want to appeal to a large market demographic, or do you want to narrow that demographic? And so a lot of times people skip the step where they're going to sell in like 3 years. And another great example that I come on along with people is They've got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. A lot of times maybe I sold that house to this couple. They call me back in 3 years. One very particular one I can think of is I go in the house and they're like, oh, we made some upgrades, and they're showing me around, and I go in the primary bedroom. They're like, oh, the closet was terrible. My husband and I both didn't have enough room. And now there's this like huge closet. Like, I mean, last time I went in this thing, it's like has an island in the middle of it, and purses are, in glass cabinets. I've never seen a master closet. And I'm like, God, this was a great upgrade. Like, this is incredible. People are going to love this. How did you do this? And they're like, oh, well, it was easy. We weren't using the 3rd bedroom. So we just knocked the wall down and made a huge closet. And now I've got a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house. And if anybody has an office, then they don't have any extra bed. I mean, we've now taken our buyer pool and we've moved it from like 80% of the market to like 10% of the market. And that generally doesn't equate to a larger sales price. So you just have to start with the end in mind. If somebody had told me that and the master closet was the biggest concern, we probably would have looked for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath that they could have done that too. And then still maximize their return.
Yes.
If you are flipping a house, or if you are picturing yourself putting in some sweat equity and then making some financial gains, I always tell people, they always tell me, Lance, like what's the number one thing that you worry about when you're going into a flip? And there's a lot, and it always surprises people, because I will tell them, for me, it's the price I'm going to sell it for and list it for. And they're like, well, how do you know that? And I'm like, well, because like, I'm not worried. I mean, there's always a worry about what's going to happen along the way or what I'm going to see, but I'm going to be able to figure that out with an inspection. What I'm worried about is what we're going to price it at the end, because then that's going to determine how much I put into it and what I do. And as much as I can tell you, as much as people don't believe this with HGTV and all of the shows out there that they watch, the worst thing that can happen is I get a creative only personality of somebody that's doing a flip. And I love artists. I mean, we all need them for certain things, but flipping houses to make a profit is not where we want to get super artistic.
Yeah.
Like I've gotten some calls where people are like, hey, Lance, we did a flip project and we put it on the market and it didn't sell, and we are wondering if you could like come out and give us your opinion. And I go out there and I open the door, and it's in a neighborhood where the price is never more than $400,000, and they've got like full tile backsplash with a chevron pattern, and it looks like Joanna Gaines herself came over and did a farmhouse revival. I mean, it's gorgeous. Like, I love it, and I'm always like, no. Like, what did you think? Did you look at the comps in this neighborhood for what we could price this at when we were done? And they're like, well, no, I just really wanted to create something artistic and special. And I'm like, well, the only special thing about this is how much money we're going to lose.
Yeah.
And so I have to, like, those are hard conversations to have. And so I always tell people, like, we got to start with where we're going to list this. Yes. And then make decisions accordingly. I had a client call me this week that had a beautiful piece of land, and some of it was irrigated property, and he had bought it, and he said, hey, I think I'm going to sell in 2 years, Lance. Okay. And I said, okay, great. And well, let's go out and look. And I'm like, oh, man, yeah, this is really valuable. And he goes, well, here's what I was thinking I was going to do. I was going to put a manufactured home because I can get those a little bit cheaper. And I was going to put it in the corner of this property. And what do you think I could sell it for if I do that? And I'm like, 900 and, let's just make up a number, 999,000. And he's like, oh, okay. Oh man, it's going to be costly to do all that. And I'm just not sure. Well, how about I do a stick built like home in the corner? And he's like, how much am I going to sell that for? And I'm like, 999,000. He's like, are you just saying that every single time? And I was like, well, look, like, we're bumping up against a price range that no matter what else you put on this land because of where it's situated and what it is, like, we're going to top out. And he's like, well, what is it going to take for me to resell this for $1.5 million? You know, what's that going to take? And so, I mean, this was like a great call because, like, I got to start with the end in mind. And so I said to the client, well, everything, I have comps here. Everything that has sold for $1.5 million, you know, has about 4,000 square feet. It has a 4-car garage. It has a pool, and it has a big shop in the back. And that's all. And he goes, well, he's like, well, Lance, like, what you just described is going to cost like $2.2 million to build. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Don't do it. Don't, if you're selling in 2 years and you want to be at $1.5 million, like, you have to have all that. You can't do it. And so, you know, we went back and we said, okay. Well, he said, well, starting with the end in mind, what I want to do is I want to leave this property and net, say, $250,000. And so we put a plan together that said, based upon what's here, here's what gets you to that point. And it doesn't have to be, if we go above that, like, we are getting to a very niche market that people are selling those properties that they've used for 20 years, and they've attributed cost to each year of enjoyment for that. To build that and make those type of returns, it's not going to happen. That was the conclusion we came to. And so we put together a plan that allowed him not to invest like $1 million additional, and then end up losing some of that. We put together a plan where someone could invest a couple $100,000 and then turn it and get a couple hundred back out of it. So those calls are the ones I prefer, where we can start with the end in mind and we can work it backwards from that. And when we do that, we're way more successful in real estate. The other thing that happens, you know, where people will go out with me, and I mean, these are tough conversations. They're like, Lance, how does this have to do with real estate? Well, I'll go work with somebody and they'll be like, I'm always like, well, how many, you know, I don't want to pry too much, but like, how many kids are you going to have? You know, and they're like, well, we're going to have 2. You know, and we're looking at like 2-bedroom, 1-bath houses. And I'm like, okay, well, like, let's just play a little scenario. Like, let's just say you have both of those kids and we're sitting here in the living room. What's going on? And they're like, this is awful. We can't live here. You know, and I'm like, okay, well, if you can afford it now, let's, you know, skip a step and, you know, purchase a house that might, you know, that you might be able to grow into in that situation. And so it's just having some of those conversations, balancing that with a good budget makes a big, big difference. We are really, really good at this. This is what we do. So if you want to start with the end in mind, you're thinking about doing something in 6 months, you know, 9 months, even 3-4 years from now, give us a call, start that process and conversation, and we can have a consultation.
Yes.
That's what I've been working on a ton lately. Back to school has happened. People are settling in. And so we are coming into a market that has a sweet spot with a lot of activity. The next 2.5 months in real estate are very, very busy. If you've thought about getting your home on the market, listed and sold, or buying so that you can be in by the holidays, go to kenmoreteam.com, shoot us a message. We would love to help you out, and we will be right back here next week.